More now on the fire in a 19-storey block of flats in East London. It broke out shortly before 9 o'clock this morning. It's believed the building, New Providence Wharf in Poplar, is covered in the same type of cladding as the Grenfell Tower. All 550 apartments have been evacuated. One of the residents, who's also chair of the New Providence Wharf Residents Association, spoke to the BBC this morning.
I got my husband out, knocked on every single door going down the flights of stairs, telling them to evacuate. We're supposed to have a waking watch that has been put in place, not a sign of a waking watch coming to help us. The fire is still ongoing. The fire brigade is here. They're trying to get it under control. We are a block which has got ACM Grenfell-like cladding. Our landlord has applied for the ACM funds and the building safety funds, and it's paperwork. This is a serious issue. This is not something that should have been a pen-paper exercise, which it has become. The waking watch is a paper-pen exercise. Whoever's suffering from waking watch, it doesn't work when there are 1,000 people living in a block. Leaseholders have to pay £47,000 for a month for this waking watch, which is completely ineffectual in a real fire. Completely ineffectual. I want the fire brigade to understand that. I want the government to understand that. It is ineffectual. If you do not involve residents in their own safety, having Tom, Dick and Harry walking up and down your corridors is a waste of money, waste of time. It's a tick box exercise.
Well, 2 people were injured, but the fire has now been brought under control.
Good evening. Black smoke billowing from a block of flats and flames climbing up the outside of the building. In a city still living in the shadow of the Grenfell disaster, it was a terrifying scene in Poplar today. The 8th, 9th and 10th floors of the 19-storey tower block burned throughout the morning, and more than 40 people suffered the effects of smoke inhalation before fire crews managed to bring the fire under control. The tower was evacuated and a tragedy was avoided. But then another disturbing detail emerged. Parts of the building were covered in the same type of cladding that was found to be a factor in the fire at Grenfell. Katie Barnfield has our report.
These are pictures no one wanted to see again. Flames climbing up a London tower block. A block still covered in the same type of flammable cladding as Grenfell Tower.
I was in bed this morning when I heard a furious knock, and when I went down to open the door, there was smoke.
Manish lives on the 8th floor of New Providence Wharf, next door to where the fire started.
When we got out of the building, we could see that there was pretty heavy smoke on the 8th floor, and in about a matter of minutes, we could then start seeing flames spread to the 9th and the 10th floor as well. The rate at which it was spreading was really alarming.
As evacuated residents gathered at a nearby hotel, watching firefighters try and dampen the flames, they couldn't hide their anger.
Grenfell's happened. Let's pay respect to the people who died, for God's sake. We don't want them to die in vain.
Yasmin chairs the residents' group and says they've been begging for years for the cladding to be removed. And while they wait, they're paying £47,000 a month for a waking watch to patrol the building.
And it's obvious waking watch does not work. I've had a very close friend and I was trying to reassure her about her cladding, and I hope she doesn't mind me sharing this. She had a heart attack on Thursday. It's the stress of living in this cladding.
At the height of the fire, 125 firefighters were trying to get it under control. But residents on floors underneath it said their fire alarms didn't go off.
We did not hear a single beep of fire alarm within the flat, in the corridor, and the fire compartment door, which I know shuts automatically when there's supposed to the fire alarm goes on, because they do testing sometimes. None of that happened, right? Which is wide open.
If my mum wasn't here to wake me up, I would have still been sleeping for at least another 30 minutes, which is quite scary.
The building owners, Ballymore Group, were one of 14 firms called out by the government in January for failing to remove flammable cladding. The group told us replacement of the cladding was underway, with work due to start on Monday.
We have had incidents where fire does spread above a floor. We recognise that this has got cladding that is very similar to Grenfell. We have got our fire investigation teams and our fire safety teams looking at this building and the procedures that have been put in place.
2 people have been taken to hospital and 1 firefighter was injured. Many who live here say it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, Kate, that looked like a frightening place to be this morning.
Absolutely. You know, the anger and the fear down there was palpable. And people who watch this programme regularly will have seen my colleague Rags Martel week in, week out, visiting blocks like this that still haven't had flammable cladding removed 4 years after the Grenfell Tower fire. Now, we have heard from the government tonight. They said this building has received £8 million government funding to remove unsafe ACM cladding. Ministers have met Ballymore repeatedly to urge action. We are spending £5 billion to fully fund the replacement of all unsafe cladding. But just over a week ago, you may remember that MPs voted again against giving leaseholders more protection against the costs of making their buildings fire safe. And we have just heard that a group of leaseholders in Tower Hamlets, where this fire was, are going to protest about that tomorrow afternoon.